Thank you all so much for having us here today. We're still very new in our campaign. Josh just made his announcement in April. And so everyone has warned us that the campaign will become very negative and that people will really scrutinize us. So I thought in front of this friendly crowd I would go ahead and reveal to you his one flaw. He is absolutely addicted to college football. On Saturday mornings, he starts watching at 10:30 with College Game Day, and he doesn't turn it off until the West Coast games are over, so sometimes that means 1 or 2 in the morning. And if it is a fall Saturday, you will not see him outside of the house unless it's a wedding, and he'll be in the corner checking scores. So you can imagine my surprise when one day we had tickets to a football game and he was late to come pick me up. When he finally arrived, I found out that he had stopped to help an elderly woman whose car had been broken down in a busy intersection. I said, "Josh, why did you stop and help her? There's probably at least 100 other people who could have helped her, and probably people who didn't have somewhere to be." Now you have to understand, this was back early in our marriage when we were very broke, and it was a very kind gesture for a neighbor to give us some tickets. And so I was very surprised that he did this. And Josh looked at me and he said, "We can't wait around for people to do the right thing." So before he decided to run, we talked about it as a family, and I said, "Why would you do this? Put yourself out, have people vilify you and despise you? And you do know where we live, right?" And he said, "Jennifer, we can't wait around for people to do the right thing. We keep thinking that there's going to be some magic hero that steps out and runs. And we're called to do the right thing." So Josh stepped out of private life as a teacher to do this because it is the right thing to do. And then in this campaign, people have been very kind and have thanked me for supporting Josh. But really my job is pretty easy. I get to go around and meet wonderful people like you, and I get to watch your eyes as you discover this hidden treasure of a man. He really is wonderful. And it really doesn't even begin to compare to the sacrifices he has made for our family. I was laid off in 2008, along with just about everybody else in America, and I was pregnant with little Abby, who's here today. And I was very discouraged. I couldn't find a job, and I told Josh I wish he had known me when I was in high school. I was smart and I was ambitious. And he said, "Well, Jennifer, you're still smart, and there's no reason you shouldn't be ambitious anymore." So he supported me through law school. On top of teaching full-time, he delivered pizza, he worked retail over the holidays. And I said, "Wouldn't you be embarrassed if one of your students saw you at a cash register or you delivered pizza to a student's home? I think I would be horrified." And he said, "I'm supporting my wife's dreams, and there's no shame in that." So all these years while I was in law school and starting my career, Josh was in charge of attempting ballet hair buns, which he never really mastered. Working extra jobs and doing a lot for our family. But Josh is just someone who never tires of doing good. He spends his free time volunteering with the homeless, volunteering at the food bank. This is someone who has quietly volunteered for years. This is not something he's doing now for show. This is who Josh truly is. He's my Sunday school teacher, and his faith is very important to him. But he's also someone who would never make someone feel isolated or ostracized. In fact, we have an atheist who attends our Sunday school class with more regularity than a lot of church members. I've sat with Josh at tables with fancy china and servers and multiple courses, and I've sat with Josh while we ate with homeless families. And he is the same person no matter who he's with or where he is. He taught himself Latin and ancient Greek. He taught himself ancient Greek in one summer and then took master's level literature courses in ancient Greek. He's just the smartest man I know. I really can't say enough good things about him, and it is really my privilege to introduce him to all of you tonight. So please welcome Josh McCall, our 9th District Congressional candidate.
Thank you, everybody. You might be able to hear me without the microphone. What do you think? Would you prefer me with the microphone or without it? It's up to you. With? Okay. Well, with it is then. Thank you all for being here. Just showing up tonight, looking around this room, this is a very powerful experience. It wasn't that long ago that a lot of people, including myself, were in a pretty dark place back in 2016. But it is just such a powerful feeling to be in a room full of people with goodwill and good intentions who plan on reshaping and rebuilding the future of this country, because we are in pretty deep trouble right now. I want to start off by talking a little bit about myself. I think the most important thing about any candidate is his or her ideas rather than their personal story. But you might want to know who you're supporting and who you're going to be voting for. So I'm glad to share some things from my own story and my own past. My parents both had to show up to work every single day. My mother worked for almost 40 years at Milliken on Currahee Mountain in Toccoa. That plant was not just a place that paid the bills. It was a social center. It was a place where my aunt and uncle both worked and retired from as well. My cousins worked there, and both of my brothers have worked there. And my mother worked very hard all those years, and she would come home after work, and she would do the cooking and the cleaning. And she actually was the one who named me. And my oldest brother's name is James Buckland McCall. Bucky is his short nickname. My other brother's name is Clinton Rubish McCall. And my mother said, I'm naming this one. So she named me Joshua Braxton McCall. My father was also a working person. He worked for almost 20 years in Lockheed, in Marietta, which is 99 miles away from where we live. It was a long drive, and he had to ride with a guy who liked to race cars on the side for fun. The guy was, his name was Kenneth, but everybody called him Slab because of his big foot, which apparently was really handy negotiating Atlanta traffic. But my father did some hard work out there, but he was willing to make that drive because they had better insurance and better pay than any of the machinist jobs in our area. So that's my background. My first 4 years were spent in a trailer. We had a good bit of land, and it was really beautiful. And of course, when I was young, I didn't know that living in a trailer, according to some people, was somehow shameful. In fact, it wasn't until I was older that I found out that some people refer to people living in a trailer as trailer trash. But that's never been the way my family has thought about people. It's never been the way I think about people. I don't consider anybody who's a human being to be trash. And so that's one of the reasons why I came out of my private life, because of the way people were talking about refugees and immigrants and the poor. I could not stand back anymore to see the way what our nation was becoming. So I came out of a very happy private life. I love to do what I do. I love to teach Latin and biology. I work at a wonderful place, and I love my students. And I was always satisfied going home to be with my family and to read and enjoy myself. But I could not, with good conscience, sit down in the shadows anymore. So I came out like a lot of you have come out of the shadows to work towards a better future for this country and for our children. So let me start off by thanking you for your courage and your strength. Thank you to Marie and David and Ike who have been working to build this movement locally, because that's where we're going to have to start, is to build locally. I've actually heard some really disturbing news lately. I heard the other day through Twitter that there's a witch hunt going on right now. I learned of this witch hunt through our president's chosen announcement tool, Twitter. And it was so frightening to me at first. I thought, we have an ugly history with witches. The Salem witch trials turned out really ugly. But then I started actually following the witch hunt. And I realized this is the weirdest witch hunt of all history. Picture a witch hunt where the witches aren't hiding in bushes or coves. They actually go to an interview with Lester Holt and say, yes, I'm a witch. I'm guilty. And then they go on Twitter after their handlers have talked to them and said, look, can you take it easy on the I'm a witch thing? And can you just kind of lay off of that for a little bit? But the first thing he does is he gets on his phone and he announces once again to the world, witch, right here, I'm a witch. But I thought that while I was here tonight addressing the witch hunt, I would put out a special request to these witch hunters. While you're hunting for the witch in the bushes and the woods, would you mind finding the health care bill that is being written somewhere? We don't know where it is. They've done a search. The only people who might know where this health bill would be the Russians. Maybe they could tell us. And while they're at it, I know this is a lot, they're already looking for witches, which can be pretty hard to track down. But while they're at it, would you also locate Doug Collins for us? I haven't seen him. He should be easier to find than a witch. He is an elected representative of the 9th District. And once he got finished passing the poison bill, that is also known as the AHCA, he went into hiding, like a lot of other Republicans did. It's really strange to see so many politicians terrified of their own legislation. But you can tell why they're scared, because there were some who chose not to hide out, and they ended up saying terrible things. So it was probably actually safer to hide from the bill. So the Republicans actually switched from hiding from the bill to hiding the bill from us. And that's their current tactic. And next week, reportedly, they will give 10 hours generously to the Senate to talk publicly about one of the biggest bills to ever pass in the history of Congress. 10 hours. And then a vote. Not through the normal process of having to get 60 votes, but through the appropriations process, because they know they don't even want to try to be bipartisan. So there is a witch hunt going on. There's also a conspiracy. There are all kinds of scary things apparently happening. I'm reading about this through the Twitter feed, right? So I would like to, there's a conspiracy by news organizations who have the gall to record our president as he speaks. And then sometimes they even go back and play it again so that we can hear what he said about a year ago. It's very useful, actually, because most of what he promised the American people when he was elected has turned out to be a lie.
Gee, imagine that.
Right. Well, we have a big, numerous conspiracy on our hands. One of them is through, one of the conspirators are the news channels who have video cameras. Another one is the president's own Twitter account. Because just when we thought that he was not under investigation, he admitted to us on his Twitter account that he was under investigation. So this conspiracy is everywhere. It's even in the White House on the president's own phone. And I would like to make an announcement tonight. Just, the best thing in a republic is that things are public. These are public affairs we're talking about here. So I would like to announce myself as part of that conspiracy. I believe in freedom and liberty, equality for every human being in this country. In fact, I'm joining a long conspiracy that began back in 1776 when a group of people got together to write one of the most important documents in the history of the world. They were part of a conspiracy against dictators and tyrants. And they conspired in this document to topple tyrants and to end the threat of kings forever and to make our republic permanent. I too am a part of this conspiracy. And I'll show you how this conspiracy works. Number one, we have the right to free speech. We have the right to free speech because our words fuel revolutions, and that makes tyrants and petty dictators quake in their golden towers. I'm also a part of this conspiracy that believes in the freedom of assembly because our fellowship is powerful. Our fellowship shapes the future. This power was given to us a long time ago for exactly this time, for exactly this season. Never forget how powerful we are simply by gathering together. We are not in Moscow yet. Yet. We have to be vigilant because for now, I can stand freely at this podium and critique our president and the Congress. But if we were in Moscow under Putin's control, we would all be raided and brutalized and jailed until we weren't a threat anymore. But we have great power, and we have the power to shape our future, and that's what I want to start doing tonight. It's time to find that power again, because times have never been more dangerous than they have been right now. The very fabric of our constitutional system is at risk. When 13 senators, not even the whole party, but 13 Republican senators can sit in a back room somewhere and write this bill, we know that the entire system that we trust is at risk. So I understand why people are upset. I understand why people, out of desperation, voted for a wild card in this last election. And I can't blame the Republican Party, and I can't blame Donald Trump for winning, because he tried really hard to lose. He tried his best, week after week. He tried to show us who he was, but it didn't work. He ended up winning after all. And as he complained after he got elected, this is harder than he thought it would be. Our country is in perilous times. We are told over and over, we don't have the money to pay for hungry children, for uneducated children. We just don't have the money to pay for our seniors to live in dignity and decency in their last years. We need to cut Medicaid for our most disabled people in the country. We just can't afford it. But somehow, whenever they get ready to buy the next biggest bomb, or to invest in more tanks that the Pentagon says no to, they find the money. For some reason, there are times in our country when America never seems to run out of money, but at other times, it seems to be awfully impoverished. Well, tonight, I want to talk to you about the current situation in our neighborhoods and our communities. They're in dire straits. Milliken, where my mother worked for almost 40 years, is now an empty space. It was shut down. Many factories all across this land have experienced the same difficulty. And at the edge of many neighborhoods, at the edge of many of these communities, there is a wasteland. And that grim wasteland has eaten its way into some of our neighbors' hearts. And what we as progressives have got to do is look for a new vision for America's future. And the first place that I challenge all of you to look is not on the news and not on Facebook, but to look in your neighbor's heart. Where can we find the common ground that seems forever lost? I have a proposition. We should start with health care. Republican or Democrat, Libertarian, unaffiliated, we all are made of flesh and blood. And we all have hearts that beat. And all of us want every person in this country to have that heart for as long as possible. That is the next common ground. I propose a single-payer system, which I call the American Health Insurance Plan. An American Health Insurance Plan would guarantee that nobody dies because they're poor, and nobody is poor because they're dying. That is my greatest goal, and that is the centerpiece of my platform. This district has one of the highest uninsured rates in our state. And our state of Georgia has the 5th largest uninsured population in the country. We need health care. I've heard Paul Ryan and Doug Collins and other Republicans refer to health care for everybody as a free ride. I want to let them know something.